Hey you guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bass, and today we've got a gear review for you. Let's go. We are true fans of bass fishing. Catching fish, talking fishing, tackle, gear, storage, all of it. Tim and I are tackle fanatics. There's no way around it. These gear review videos give us that excuse to scratch that itch, to dive in deep with all the new tackle. I'm on Tackle Warehouse constantly refreshing those new item pages, looking at what's coming, buying all that stuff, always tracking down new rods, new reels, new hooks, you name it. There have been times in our lives where Tim and I have missed trends. We were the last guy to the party, not the first guy on a new technique or a new way to do something. And as a tackle junkie, that will never happen again. We are fanatical about our gear. We're always looking for what's next so that we can bring that to you. So we buy it all, try it all, beat it all up, and then report back to you guys with the standouts, the baits that are different, they're unique, they bring something special that can impact your fishing. And that's true for baits, gear, rods and reels, you name it. Today, I've actually got a lot of stuff to cover here. Normally, midsummer with iCast coming, a lot of companies don't really put out new stuff, but this year has been different. We have got some gems to talk about today. We've got a ton of baits, one rod, a ton of baits, some boxes, some hooks, some really good stuff. With that, let's dive into it. Let's start with boxes. I'm excited about this. Plano is like the standard of bass tackle storage, right? Has been forever, it seems like. They're on every tackle shop, every mom and pop shop, every big box store. They've all got Plano boxes. We all own them. The Stowaway has gone through a complete revamp. And I mean, it is a major list of changes. We've seen generations of Plano boxes. Sorry, we got boats running all over right here. We're gonna get hit by the waves too, but that's just part of it. We've seen generations of Plano boxes. You remember those ones where they first put the restrictor in, but then the lids got all cloudy? What they've done in these boxes is they've taken what they've learned from their high-end boxes and then trickled it down. So we've got a hard base in these boxes and then a separate completely clear plastic lid. We've got that single latch like we've seen in the high-end boxes. You can write on them, so you've got a place to label your boxes. That restrictor, the stuff that they put in their boxes to help eliminate erosion, they now put that in the gray part of the box, not in the clear part of the box. So the clear portion stays totally clear. And then they come in, so this is like standard Stowaway, like we're used to seeing just with all the upgrades. And then this is the waterproof Stowaway where it's got a gasket on it. Depends where you are in the country. It depends what you're storing in the box. The vast majority of my personal boxes are waterproof boxes because I don't want water intrusion into my tackle. But you also have to keep in mind, if you use waterproof boxes, that your baits have to be dry before you put them in because they will hold all that moisture too. But regardless, you've got that restrictor in there that really helps with that. Compared to the last generation of Stowaway, it's like endless upgrades, and I think they're maybe a couple bucks more expensive than the last generation. It's phenomenal upgrades from Plano in the Stowaway series. I'm really happy to see those. In fact, when I saw those, I got a bunch of them, put them in my cart at TW, and I didn't overnight them. I second dayed them to myself. I was doing some tackle organization and I just had to get to it. So I wanted the brand new boxes so I could try them out. Next up, from Daiwa, we've got the Power Scope rods. I've got a reel on here, but we're talking about the rod. The Power Scope series of rods. So these are Daiwa's leap into like forward-facing sonar specific rods. They make both spinning and bait casting, but these are rods that were designed around forward-facing sonar. What I found when I'm fishing that style, I do some of it. I don't do tons and tons of it, but I do some. And I found, wow, we are getting slammed by waves, but it's gonna calm down here in just a second. Bear with me. What I've found when I'm using any sort of like a minnow rod, right? Jig and minnow, I'm strolling, I'm shaking that thing. I personally really prefer solid tip rods. And these power scope rods have got that. So what that means is that a traditional blank on a rod, they're hollow, but for strolling, you need such a light tip, such a paper thin tip section, that this section of the rod is actually solid. It's not hollow. The result is that they are much more durable in that very thin material. They're not brittle like a hollow tube would be. But when you are strolling, if you spend any time doing this, that ultra light, ultra sensitive tip is so critical, because so often when you're strolling and you're reeling, you're working that thing, you're shaking so much that unless they club it, you don't even feel the pickup. They come up underneath it, they grab that thing, and they just sort of unload the line. And it's so easy to miss. But with an ultra light tip like that, you notice that difference and you're able to set up on those fish. So for me personally, I have gone exclusively to solid tip rods for all of my strolling. Now, this specific model leapt out at me. It's why I had to have this one, okay? This Daiwa, let me read you the ratings on this model. So this is their micro lures model. Remember, strolling came over from Japan. This concept of doing this for bass came from Japan. In the US, we're using 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, even 1/2 ounce to do this. Japan is already ahead of us in this trend. As their fish have gotten used to this, they are going to lighter and lighter and lighter line, lighter weights, smaller baits, all the way down to like 1/96th of an ounce in the little jig heads. When they're strolling, they are almost hovering these baits in the water column and then just rocking them in the water. It's completely different than what we're doing here right now. But we know, as we follow a trend, it's already happened there, so we can see what's coming. The days are coming where for somebody who's really into forward-facing sonar, as those fish get beat up, as they get conditioned, if that's you, that's your fishing style, the day is coming that you have to go to lighter and lighter and lighter weights. Tim and I always try to be ahead of everything. We want to be dialed on those trends way out in advance. This model jumped out at me. This is the 6'1" ultralight. I'm sorry, 6'0" ultralight. 1/96th to 3/32 of an ounce. Line rating on a bass rod. Line rating 1 to 3 pound. I had to have it. I'm a tackle geek, right? I had to have it. The trend is headed that way. This is not something I'm doing on the Tennessee River day in and day out. I use a lot of 1/4, 3/8, and 1/2 if I'm strolling, if I'm shaking that minnow. But this is coming for us. It's coming for you. It just depends on how much you do it and when that happens. But again, Daiwa's Power Scope series, these are forward-facing specific rods. They've designed them with the right actions for these techniques. Very accurate casting rods. A very small guide train on it, because so much of what we're doing with forward facing is even if you're doing braid like I do, braid to leader, it's all micro braids. It's micro braids to light leaders, tiny little knots. They pass through just fine. So they've really dialed these in specific to this. But again, for me, as I'm looking at it, I don't necessarily need another middle of the road rod. I've got that covered. I have favorite models, but I saw that ultralight and I'm like, gotta have it. Gotta check that one out. And it's been a lot of fun. Now with that, let's jump in to baits. And actually I've got 2 hooks. I'm gonna do hooks first, and then the whole rest of this video is baits. And we've got a bunch from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different companies of baits are represented here. We're all over the board. These are just standout baits, each one for a very unique thing. All right, let's start with hooks. We'll jump into it. The first one is from Owner. this hook is awesome. This is called the multi-offset hook. It's a wide gap hook, but it is very, very different from anything that we are used to. It's a straight eye hook. What does that mean? You've probably never noticed, but every wide gap hook that you've ever thrown has a line tie turned the other way. None of them are in line. This one is in line. What's the deal with this hook? What is its purpose? What are the advantages of it? Well, the biggest advantage right out the gate, before we even get to like specifics of what this hook is for, is that with a line tie flipped this way, whether you're way out at the end of a cast or whether you're coming up under the boat, your knot is riding in a way where you are always in line with your bait, which means your bait will track straighter on a straight eye than on a traditional turned eye. Because if it's turned, your knot is fighting to make that bend as you come up under the boat, especially if you use something like a loop knot. With this style, completely free floating, you'll have complete free motion with your bait no matter where you are in a cast. The biggest standout for me, the first place that I really saw advantage to this hook is throwing soft jerk baits, throwing a fluke, right? I just saw incredibly free motion. I really like several things about the hook for that, and we're about to jump into that. But things to note about this hook. Here's the biggest thing. It is a very wide gap for its length. So shorter shank, wider gap. The result is that we are able to go to a smaller size than you're used to. So like if you normally throw a 4/0 wide gap hook on a soft jerkbait, now you can drop to a 3/0 hook if you want to get more action. If you putting it on a swim bait or something that you're swimming in the water column and you want more action out of the bait, say you're putting it on a Texas rigged worm, most of the time, those fish pick that thing up and then you wait for them to really get it before you set the hook. They're gonna eat it whole anyway. By going to that smaller hook, you're maintaining your gap, you're maintaining your ability to get your hook set, but you're shortening your shank. You're moving the hook forward in the bait to where the bait has more motion behind the hook. As fish get more and more pressured, those details matter. I have had so many times, I mean my whole life, but it seems like it's happening more and more, where I'll get a worm bite, swing on them, and it's like they're there, they're gone. You reel up and they bit right behind the hook. And it's so consistent that they do that. As a kid, I always thought that means I need a longer hook, right? I need to get into their mouth. It's the opposite. See, what's happening is the section of the bait that has a hook in it has no action. It doesn't look right. And often the hook is weighting it down to the bottom. So that section is laying on the bottom and then everything else is up. So they eat everything else. So by going to a smaller, lighter hook, they're more likely to pick it all up, but you've still got the gap in there to be able to set that hook. It also has a smaller barb than a typical owner wide gap hook. It's a needle point hook. It's got that slick coating on it. It's a really, really neat hook. I've been very impressed with it. There are a lot of times that I get into those finicky fish when I'm slow fishing, and I feel like a wider gap, shorter shank solves a lot of that for me. And then again, anything where you're trying to get more action out of your bait, where you want it track and true, you want more action, that's an awesome option. I'm very impressed with that multi-offset. I love anything that is completely different from the norm with a purpose. That stuff always catches my eye and I've got to go out and try it. The next one up, from Z-Man, we've got their Ultimate Elastec heads. Okay, what is that? It's a shaky head. This is an important head if you like throwing Elastec plastics, so the stretchy plastics. Almost all of my shaky head fishing, I do a ton of shaky head fishing in the, let's call it the post-spawn all the way through summer. That's when it shines for me. I've always got it in the boat, on deck, ready to rock. You guys know, me and that June bug worm, we are one in the summertime. I just live and breathe that thing. I catch a lot of big ones, and I just plain catch a lot of fish. I love, for my shaky head fishing, screw lock shaky heads. I like to screw my baits on, and that's how I fish my shaky heads. That said, there is a lot of advantage to a Laztec stretchy baits, and we'll get to this bait next. This is a Z-Man bait, but there's that Laztec, right? That stretchy material. If you try to put that on a screw lock, it won't go. There are incredible advantages to a Laztec. Durability is incredible. You can fish the same worm, not just today. You can fish it today, tomorrow, the next day, just catching fish on that thing before you finally tear one. They're just unbelievably durable. The trade-off, though, is that your normal shaky head will just give you trouble. So, Z-Man has built their own head, that ultimate Laztec head, where it's just that wrapped on single barb. It's a perfect hook. Lighter wire, let's call it a medium wire. It's not lighter wire. Medium wire set up with that one barb is all you need to hold a Laztec. And here's a trick to a Laztec, okay? Are you ready for this? Anytime you're dealing with a Laztec, don't try to push it on. Although in this case, it goes right on. But anytime with a Laztec, grab and pull it on. It is so much easier to pull a Laztec into place than it is to push a Laztec into place. But that single barb keeper system is phenomenal for keeping a Laztec pinned up. So if you want baits that are more durable, that will take a beating, that you don't have to fiddle with so often, you want to use a Laztec baits, you're going to need a dedicated head. You can't use those traditional screw locks like I use with all my other baits. I've got to have some of these heads around to be able to do this effectively. And this particular head is the best one that I've ever seen come down the line for fishing these baits. Now with that, we might as well talk about the bait next, right? This is the FattyZ Thick Sticks. And it is exactly that. It is a very thick bait. So it's a 6-inch worm. It starts out as fat, like what can I compare that to? Like a 7-inch Senko? Like way fatter than your typical 7 to 10-inch worm. It is a thick bodied worm. That gives you a lot of bulk. A lot of time in the summertime, we're just down there trying to get a bite, right? But sometimes you're trying to upsize. You've already caught a limit of fish. You've caught the fish you're after. Now you want a big one, right? Just going to that bigger profile can make all the difference. So this bait is very large, very thick, all through the mid, but then it necks way down, and then you've got a bulbous tail on there. See how it's all necked down? And see how soft a Laztec is? Look at this. As I try to hold it, it just wants to flop over, right? So by necking way down and then putting that bulb on the end, when you work it, if you're just dragging it, that's one thing. It's just hanging there, just hovering. But if you're working it, I mean, that thing is wagging down there. You can get a ton of motion out of that bait if you want to. Now, if you haven't seen one of these buyer's guides before, I'm sorry, gear reviews before, you may not know, but it's like this in every video we ever do. In the video description, we will link all of this stuff in the order we're talking about it. We'll lay it all out for you with links straight to Tackle Warehouse. In the case of baits, we'll give you our exact favorite sizes, our exact favorite colors, exactly what Tim and I would choose in that bait for our fishing for right now. That way you have a reference point. If you want to try a bait, you look at all these colors, you don't know what to try, we always list our favorites as well. So you've got that to look at. But those links take you straight to Tackle Warehouse, no matter where you're seeing this video, on YouTube, on Facebook, on our website. Below the video is a description with all of that laid out for you. You don't need to take notes like you used to have to. All right, next one up from Big Bite Baits, we've got the FAFO. That is F-A-F-O. It's a clever name. That stands for Flip Around and Find Out. I thought that was clever. I think that's a funny name for a flipping bait. So this is a little creature bait. Check this guy out. plenty of baits in this type category, right? We'll call that like a beaver type category. But this particular bait has a little smaller body. I'm fishing this on a 2-aught or a 3-aught wide gap is what I'm fishing it on. You don't need a full-size hook for this. So for me, this bait is standing out when I want to drop it down a little bit. Maybe my bite's a little tough today. I want to downsize a little. That's where this bait is shining for me. When that bite's wide open, I'm cracking them, getting tons of bites. I'm going to larger profiles, trying to get bigger bites. When that's not happening, you know, there's always good days. There's also those other days. When it's not happening the way I expect, that's when this bait is coming into play for me, because I can downsize everything. But what I really like about this bait is it's got these two legs. You got to break them apart, okay? But they don't have any, they're not designed to be like big flapping, kicking tails. They've got a little bit of motion just on their own naturally, but these are not big, overly exaggerated tails. This is what I call dead action. What I mean by that is the first bait where this ever shined was the Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver. That bait was a bait that was all profile, no action. And it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. This concept where you get perfect profile, but you don't have a bunch of that exaggerated kick out of the tails, there is a time and a place where that is the bite. I mean, it is incredible how well it works. And this bait shines. Now, there's more to it than that. I've always had this theory about that Sweet Beaver, because the number of giants I caught on that thing through the years is incredible. I almost don't even use it anymore. But back in the day, I used it all day, every day. Even though it's a dead action trailer, when you shake it, the little tails on that bait would just open and close a little bit. This bait does it too. When you're just working that thing, those little tails are back there just barely moving around. I swear it imitates the claw on a crawdad. This has been my theory for more than 15 years. Do I know it to be true? No. Did a beaver outshine all the other baits like it and it had that action? They didn't? Yup. This bait has that same sort of an action where it's so subtle, it's almost neutral. It's almost just profile, but there's something else to it. And baits like that always catch my eye. They always stand out. The other advantage here is that if you're flipping heavy cover, there is nothing on this bait to grip. Nothing that will catch grass and junk on the way down. So you can flip it on a little bit lighter weight, i.e. lighter hook, i.e. lighter line, equals more bites, again, in tougher conditions. But that big bite baits, FAFO, is a really cool little bait that I've been pretty excited about all spring as I've been beating those things up. All right, next one up from Exone. We've got the Rally Shad. The Rally Shad comes in two different sizes. This is the larger. This is the 4.5 inch. This is their leap into like a full-size strolling minnow type bait. You guys know, Tim and I love Exone plastics. One of the things about Exone that I like so much is their colors and their consistency. But even more than that, what made this brand such a standout to me, they're a small outfit, so they adapt their materials to every single bait. They're not all poured out of the same plastics. They're all very, very different. And that was critical to me because I could see the difference in baits. I could see how that worm was floating on the bottom. I could see how that craw was kicking and rolling through rocks better than every other bait in underwater footage, right? Those subtle differences were how Tim and I were catching so many more fish on these baits. And like one by one, Exone took over a bunch of our fishing categories. It happened slow because it was like we'd fall in love with a bait and then we'd try another one. We'd fall in love, we'd try another one. It was a process. So this is a new bait. Again, they call it the Rally Shad. This is a minnow type bait, you know, jig and minnow. Let me grab a head. I've got heads just piled up over here. Put that guy on there. If I could rig it straight, that'd be super helpful. There we go. So this is a bait that the way you're going to fish it, it's got a flat fork tail on it, which helps give it flow in the back of the bait. So it's not just a pintail. I throw a lot of pintails. There's absolutely a time and a place for that fork tail too. You get more action out of that fork resisting the water. But then you also get amazing body roll as you shake that rod tip. If you've come to love Exone plastics, appreciate their colors, this is a bait worth trying. There are a lot of minnow baits on the market, no question. Probably there's more minnow baits coming than there are baits coming to any other category. So baits can just get lost in it. And I completely understand that. But this is a bait that I have been very impressed with from a company that has impressed me the last few years. Next one up, from Black Label. Have you ever even heard of that company? There are so many companies in bass fishing that fly under the radar and then they just pop up, right? This is actually not one of those. This is not a company that just showed up one day. In my tackle fanaticism, which is a real thing, I have lost my mind. We all know it. It's okay. I love balsa crankbaits. When Tim and I and our families both moved to East Tennessee, there are some things that go on out here. There's two subcultures that are different than the rest of fishing anywhere else in the world. Those two subcultures are fast boats, fast bass boats, and balsa crankbaits, right? Those two subcultures are alive and well out here. And boy, I got ate up by both of them. I mean, I'm into it. You guys think I have a regular crankbait problem? I've never even pulled out the balsas. I mean, it is a sickness, but I digress. Black Label makes custom balsa crankbaits. But over the last year or two, they've been going more and more into soft plastics. I'm just like slowly, like I said, I get on Tackle Warehouse, I see new stuff, I buy it, right? So I've been buying some of that stuff and I've been impressed by every single thing I've bought. This particular bait, I don't even know the name of it, the Snapshot. This is a 3.8 Snapshot. Here's what I've noticed about the Black Label stuff. Some of the shapes are super unique. Some of them are like regular bass fishing shapes we've seen 50 times. But all of them, the pouring and the colors are phenomenal. I've been super impressed. This little bait, the Snapshot, you've got a little drop shot worm here, a little minnow type bait, but you've got a very solid body. So you could go with a nose hook. You could also go with a little wide gap hook. There's a lot of meat there in that body. Then it necks way, way, way down. Then you get into this bulbous tail. That bulbous tail is also completely cupped and hollow on the underside. So it wants to capture water. It wants to float and hold itself. And then the colors, I don't know if you can see, but it's like a green pumpkin mixed with like a purple luminescent. I mean, their colors, I've been super impressed with every single one of their baits that I've scooped up. I haven't said anything yet. I've just been trying them, fishing them. This was the first one where I was like, I need to say something about that one. That one's different. I like that one. So if you just want to try something different, that little bait right there, again, that Snapshot is a really unique bait. It's just different and I've been impressed. Next one, from 6th Sense. This is their flip gill. This is a cool concept. Again, buying all the new stuff, trying all the new stuff. I stumbled up on this one. I buy a lot of new things that fool me, right? There's a lot of junk. Tim and I waste so much money on new tackle, but in all seriousness, someone has to. It might as well be us. We're crazy about it. We love the process. So it might as well be us. And then you guys just find out what the gems were, right? What's the good stuff? So here's the deal here. They're calling this their flip gill. Legs, again, come together. You can separate them or not. I separate them. Now it's more like a traditional flipping bait. But it's a, it's a creature bait essentially, but in the profile of a little bluegill or a little panfish. This is really cool. Now you could do all sorts of, you could drop shot it, you could do all sorts of stuff, but that's not what I saw here. The reason why I scooped this up is that there's a period, we're sort of coming out of it now. Although if you're in a pond, or you're in a really grassy lake where there's a ton of gills, it plays all year. But for a lot of us, there's this period in the spring, right? Right after the spawn, then the bluegill are going to spawn. The bass get pretty serious about munching those things. And there's a lot of that time period, let's call that like late April into early June, where I feel like a lot of our flipping baits that we're using, like heavy cover punching, stuff like that, pitching around grass, I think that those fish actually think those are little bluegill. I don't think they think they're crawdads at all. And that's what they're eating, is little bluegills. And a bait that actually fits that profile with all of those bluegill type colors or panfish type colors, I think that's a pretty cool concept. Now, I will say, and I'm saying it because I'm hoping somebody will hear it that could do something about it, I think they completely missed the mark on not offering some of the like black and blue options, because again, I don't think that it's craw driven. I think it's bluegill driven, but you know, you get into some of the tannic water in the South, you know, Florida, Louisiana, some of these places, and that black blue just plays so strong in this profile too. I would, if it was available in some of those colors, I would throw it 3 times as often as I'm going to throw it now. Right now, it's sort of a clear water bait for me, but that is a really cool bait. I think it's a neat concept. I was impressed. All right, on to the next. This next one's fun. We've only got a couple left to go, but they're gems. They really are. All of these are. This one, totally random bait. It's made by Bass Assassin. Okay, it's called the KO Assassin. The bait itself is not like overly impressive, right? It's, the colors are just like I've just bought like traditional green pumpkin black flake. As I look at the pores, there's a little bit of inconsistency between them. I'm not telling you this is like a life-changing bait, but I'm telling you this is a special bait, okay? And here's the connection. Let me pull one out here. It's just this specific bait. Bass Assassin, KO Assassin, all right? This is, in my mind, this thing has one job. It's a wacky worm. So where I've got one laying right here. Wacky rig Senko, right? Versus that KO Assassin. Pretty darn similar size to a 5-inch Senko. But notice these bulbed ends, okay? Now this bait, if I just like toss it on the water, it'll basically float until you break the surface tension. Then it does just a slow, nothing fall, unimpressive. I mean, it didn't look like much to me. We test everything. If you just throw it like weedless, wacky, weightless, it's not particularly impressive. It's not a big standout for me. So how did it end up in this video? Why am I going on about something that I said is not impressive? There's more to it than that. All right, I'm gonna introduce you to an old bait. Some of you are going to remember this bait. Some of you are gonna never know that it existed. Reaction Innovations, a long, long time ago, made a bait called a ball breaker. See that bait right there? Now, I don't know that one inspired the other. I have no idea. Maybe the Bass Assassin people don't have a clue this ever existed. Maybe they do. But do you see a little bit of a similarity here? All right, check this out. When I lived on the California Delta, when the water got murky, nothing could compete with this bait. In all these years, I've never talked about this, ever. This has never been in a video. At least not that I remember. That ball breaker, when this thing would fall in the water, whereas Senko's got like that little shimmy, this thing is like huge movement, right? Huge movement. And in that murkier water, the fish would just club it to the point that I probably still own 50 plus packs of ball breakers. And once in a while, in my personal fishing, they come out. So let's fast forward, because you're not gonna find ball breakers. I bought them all. I bought them a very long time ago. I saw this thing pop up in the new items page on TW. I was on it so fast just because, just maybe. As a weightless bait, it was not my favorite. It doesn't have that action when it's weightless. But as soon as you go to a weighted, wacky hook, anything that's going to try to force it down, these bend up and they've got it. They've got the same thing. And I'm telling you, there's a time and a place for everything, right? And that exaggerated action, if you got crystal clear water, not really the deal very often. But if you've got murkier water, if you've got tannic water, if you've got muddy water, and there's a time and a place. I'm telling you right now, it's a thing. And I was pumped to see somebody put out that style of bait again. Anything that's got those bulbs out there on the end, you put a little bit of weight in the middle and down they go. You're just calling fish from farther. It's not as natural looking in clear water. Senko will pound it in clear water most of the time. But when you get that murky water and movement is what's calling them in, not a visual thing, it's a thing. Last, but certainly not least, let's talk about OSP. The OSP dice. The dice category has exploded over the last year or so. It's been here longer than that, but the explosion has been in the last year. There is now an OSP Magnum dice. Let me pull this out for a size comparison for you. If you're not familiar with the dice thing, there's a lot of different ways you can fish these baits. My best success in the beginning came like screwing a little Nico weight into the bottom of them. And I just pitch them out, fish them as if they were like a weightless bait. Just let them fall, but with a little weight in them to pull them down. The fish would club them. Most recently, I keep going to the non-salt version, using them on a drop shot. It's ridiculous. I mean, sometimes crazy things just catch bass. And this is one of those things. So there's that standard dice that I'm just plowing drop shot fish with all the time. Here's the Magnum dice. Okay, it's not, you say Magnum, you're thinking big, right? It's not some giant dice at all. It's just bigger. And there's absolutely a place for a bigger OSP dice. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. Again, if it's not something you've experimented with, it looks crazy, but I mean, I fish with my dad a lot, and when he's with me, a lot of times he'll be drop shotting or throwing a Senko or throwing a little swim bait, something out the back of the boat. And I've set him up now sometimes with that OSP dice back there on a drop shot, and he's just like the back of the boat, that rod is just bent all the time. It works. It's really neat. So, all right, guys, that was the last item. We're going to wrap this gear review up there. Hopefully you enjoyed it. There's a lot of different things from a lot of different companies. Like I said, normally this time of year, we don't see much innovation. They sort of save it for iCast. I feel like this year was different. There was a lot of really cool stuff that came out mid-season, and I'm really glad that we got to sit down and talk our way through this. Again, I'll link everything in the video description in the order that I talked about it, so you don't have to try and remember. It'll all be there for you, but there are some really, really cool baits here that will help you in a bunch of different categories that are definitely worth taking a look at, as well as some of the gear. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.